Welcome everybody. Today I'll show you how to make the easiest leg warmers ever, hardly any counting and no sewing, only weaving in a couple ends, and I'll show you 2 ways to finish the bottom, one a little looser like a pant leg and one gathered up a little. So let's go. I've made these in all different kinds of yarn, thinner and thicker, and my favorite to do these in is the Mandala yarn or good old-fashioned medium 4 acrylic, which is what these are here. And these will be crocheted from the top down, pretty much one shot, no sewing. Today I'm using Mandala Ombre medium 4 weight. For me, I usually use 1 whole skein plus a little bit of a second one. I get about 6 inches from the bottom of my second leg when the first skein runs out. It says use 5.5 millimeter hook, but you need to go down to a smaller one. I use 4.25 on mine. You'll need a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. I should have used a metal one just because they're thinner, and of course your scissors, and I forgot to show it here, but you need a stitch marker as well. That's it, let's get started. I'm going to start with a chain of 16 using the last chain stitch as my turning stitch, so that will make the cuff 15 stitches wide. There's my 16. Now I'll make sure and leave that last stitch and go into the next stitch from the hook and start there. Single crochet into all of your chain stitches until you get back to the end. Now the first row is complete. Chain 1 and then turn. Making sure not to stitch into that turn chain, you will back loop only stitch for the whole cuff, like so. So you're just going to go into that back side of the V of your stitch only. Instead of going under both, to go under the whole V, you'll just go in the back like that for every stitch you do on the cuff. It's a little tricky when you start off because you don't have much to hold on to yet, but as you go, you will pick up a little speed. Just be sure to only stitch into the back loop, the back part of the V formed by the stitch. Now the last stitch at the end of the row is a little tricky, so make sure you don't miss it. And you will repeat this until your cuff is as long as you need it to be. Now here's the only part you will have to really do any measuring or counting. If you are making these for someone else, you may have to measure around the calf and the length of the leg as well, so keep that in mind. But when I just do it for myself, I just measure around the calf and just see how the length is as I go. Whatever your calf measures around your cuff is going to be at least 2 to 3 inches shorter than that because it will stretch. My calf measures about 14 inches and my cuff comes out to a little over 11 inches. And I'll just write those numbers down because with the ruler measurement and the counting of the ribs I'm about to do in a second, I'll know how big to make the next cuff. I do it this way because I don't want to have to stop and make the second cuff. I just like to go straight to the leg. Another way is to make sure that your tails are on the same sides when you ended your first cuff as they are on your second one. And here I'm just going to count the ribs and jot it down. I think it's 28 on this one, and so I'll make sure that the next cuff is the same. To join the cuff, I'll just fold it in half and make sure they are matched up together. Then I'll slip stitch all the way down for the seam. It will blend into the ribbing very well. When you get to the end, it will look like this. We will move up to the brim here. My tail from the beginning here, I'm going to hold it in place so I can stitch over it so I don't have to weave it in later. But if it's too much of a bother for you to hold it there or to keep up with it to do it that way, just leave it out for now and weave it in later. Now at the end here, to start on the side, I will single crochet into the side of that last stitch, the very edge. That's just the tail I'm stitching over. And this single crochet right here is where you will put a stitch marker. I did not, but I should have done. I will regret it later. Now this part you kind of have to eyeball. You just need an even row of stitches in an even number. Mine comes out to 56, but this is the side, so I just like to go into the thick part of the rib, then into the thinner part between the ribs. As you can see, it's a little hard to describe, but you will be able to feel the thick and the thin of the ribs. The rib being the thick part, in between is the thin part. It's okay if it's not perfect, as long as you have an even number of single crochet stitches along the brim, you'll be fine. You can see how I'm going into the thicker part and then into the one that looks like a bigger hole, and just do that all the way around and have an even number of stitches when you end. that's the most important part. And even that part's not like life or death, so no biggie. Now I'm back at the start of that row. Here is where I regret my decisions as I dig for my first stitch. Definitely use a stitch marker there. I'll get in there eventually. And I'll just do a slip stitch, and this is where it gets even easier. This ribbed cuff is the hardest part, so congratulations if you got this far. The leg is very easy and goes very quick from now on. That seam blends in so well when they are turned right side out. Now the legs are made of rows of clusters, and these clusters are just 3 double crochets. However, the very first cluster of every row will have the chain 3 as its first double crochet. And in that very same stitch, you will do 2 double crochets. Then every cluster is going to end with a chain 1. Then here on this first row, you're going to skip 2, and then you're going to double crochet 3 times into this same stitch, like so. In the cluster with your single chain, and keep going like that all the way around. Skip 2, double crochet 3 times into the same stitch, chain 1, and repeat. You will do that all the way around for every row. Now here's my little trick to making these leg warmers appear seamless. I'm going to slip stitch into that first cluster, into that chain 3 we started with, right at the end there like that. Then I will slip stitch into the next 2 stitches like that, and 1 more slip stitch into the space like that. See how it's almost invisible right here where we just were? Then start with a chain 3 exactly like we did to start the clusters, and bam baby, you're on to the next row. 2 double crochets to complete that first cluster, chain 1, and from now on your cluster will be stitched into the space like so. Here I wanted to show the same thing I showed earlier, but in the lighter part of the yarn. It's a little hard to see in the darker parts. And to show you how it looks, how you can't tell that there's a seam, it blends in, and it's going to skew it a little bit so that there's no defining seam from the joining of the rows. So here's those slip stitches again. It's 4 total. The 4th one is right into the space. So just chain 3, start your next cluster, and keep it moving. It's gonna go by so quick now, so slap on a podcast and get to stitching. And I'll meet you back here to show you how to finish these things. Okay, I finished one leg with just the flare ending with 3 rows of single crochet, and as you can see, it's not tight. It'll just sit at the end like a normal pant leg. So next I will show you how to do a tighter cuff, like a rouged or cinched, however you want to call it. And it's very easy. You're just going to skip one stitch going around instead of going into every top stitch. So I will show you that now. Okay, so here I'll show you how to do the cinched way. The regular flare way is the same start right here where you just slip stitch together, but you will just single crochet into every stitch all the way around for 3 rows. That's how you just do the regular flare. To do the cinched scrunched edge, I will show you here. You just need to skip one of the stitches in each cluster. I usually do that one right there, right after the space. Don't do the space, skip one in the cluster, in every cluster, and that will cinch up the bottom enough to give it a little bit of a ruche. So I'll just start my single crochet row here. I remember to put in my stitch marker on this one. What a miracle. And I'll just single crochet all the way around and skip the first stitch in that cluster in every cluster. I'm going to skip that one right there. Skip, skip, skip. Single crochet into the next and just continue like that all the way around. Single crochet into your space, and then skip that one right there. Single crochet and go on like that till you get to the beginning, and I'll meet you there. Alright, back to the beginning. See how it's pulling it in, and it's going to keep it from flaring out. So when I get back to the beginning, and from going forward, you don't have to skip any more stitches. You'll just do the stitches that are here. So I'm just gonna single crochet into the first stitch where my stitch marker was, and put it back there. And then just single crochet all the way into all the stitches now. No more skipping. You only skip the first row and it will look nice. I'm going to put 2 more rows on and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I finished and I'm back at the beginning, and what I like to do is get to that last stitch is I just skip that one and slip stitch into the beginning chain stitch, just to kind of make it like a nice smooth line instead of a bulge there, but do whatever you want. And then that's it. Then your leg warmer is almost done. You just gotta weave in the ends, the 2 ends, 1 on each leg. That's it. And if you changed color in the middle, that one, but and then I just pull it like that, tighten it really good, and that's how it looks. Pretty good. And then you can see it's in a little bit more, and that'll let it kind of do a little fold over when it's on your leg. And then you just turn both legs in, or right side out, and weave in this last end that you have on both of them, and that's it. You're done. So just to compare, this is the flare edge, and then this is the tight edge, and you can see the difference, and you'll definitely see the difference when you put them on. So the choice is yours on that, but either way is very, very simple, super easy.